Welcome back everyone, Oz here. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And today we're taking another look at r/EntitledParents. Precious iPhone princess chucks a tantrum in a phone shop. Many years ago, I worked in a franchise phone shop, selling contracts, offering after-sales care, and so on. I utterly hated the place due to my coworkers, and many of the customers. Now, this takes place on Boxing Day during the dreadful few hours we are open for where chaos reigns with people wanting phones set up. We don't have time for people's crap, and all we want to do is go home and eat our Christmas chocolate. Enter precious iPhone princess, PP, who looks to be about 13 or 14, and her parents, entitled mother and entitled father. I greet them and ask what the matter is. They shove a phone into my hands and explain they only just gave it to PP yesterday, but it's already not working. The problem is immediately obvious. Someone forgot their passcode the same day they created it and then proceeded to lock themselves out permanently. At this point, the phone is demanding a new SIM card, so I grab a replacement. PP is getting more and more frustrated, especially after I explain what she did wrong. Entitled father asks why I have to go through all of this, and it takes a few rounds of asking him to give me the account information so I can change things over. Entitled mother questions my experience and asks if I could get one of my very busy male coworkers to drop everything to take over what should be a simple task. Got this a lot being female, although I was the longest serving person there at the time. With the SIM card info swapped over, I grab a pin and get the old one out. I put the pin in and push. It doesn't budge. Something feels off. I feel around with the pin and notice it seems like something is already stuck in there. I asked if someone already tried, and PP admits she broke a pin in there after getting angry. Entitled mother tells me I can just fix it. No, I can't. I not only don't have the tools, but I don't have the permission or experience. I inform the parents that the only way this can be fixed is by sending it off, but they're not having it. They call for my manager and tell him to open the SIM slot because I refuse to. I tell him what's wrong with my manager's a frick face who hates me, so he does it anyway. Then proceeds to ask everyone else in the shop to try as well. By the time the phone comes back, the SIM tray is slightly bent. Jesus frickin' Christ, I hate my coworkers. Manager then ditches me to deal with the fallout as I once again explain we'll need to send it away for repair, which will take a couple of weeks due to the time of the year. PP says she doesn't want that, she wants a new iPhone now. Nope, no can do. Entitled mother demands I get PP a new iPhone out of the cupboard now. That's not how this works. PP screams. It's loud enough to echo down the hallway of the mall. Everyone in and just outside of the shop starts to gawk at this teenager as she proceeds to throw herself around and bashes her fists onto the desk and the floor, screeching like a banshee's toddler. Entitled father and entitled mother lose it. They start to scream as well, but it's not at PP for embarrassing them or making a scene. It's at me. They're going to sue me for causing their daughter emotional trauma. At this point, I'm done, so I somehow got frick-face manager to begrudgingly take over and I go for lunch. Manager ended up breaking some rules to please them, which could have put the shop in danger with a huge liability, and got chewed out by the higher-ups for it. Bet he regretted it. Okay, well, someone's child throwing a tantrum in a store is bad enough. Can you imagine joining your child in throwing a tantrum? That's ridiculous. Entitled Parent Ruins Dodgeball. Recently found this subreddit and have truly enjoyed the craziness contained in many of these stories. Figured I'd add one of my own. I apologize in advance for formatting grammar and length. My story takes place about 7 to 8 years ago while I was in college and worked at an after-school program / summer camp as a counselor for ages 6 to 13. The town this particular program was in is relatively affluent and can lend itself to entitled parents and children. Luckily, we only had a handful of these in approximately 5 years I worked there. The majority of the kids and parents I interacted with during the school year, our normal program, were awesome. I admit there were some troublemakers, but luckily we had a remedy to relieve some stress when the kids were being especially difficult. Dodgeball. When the kids were being particularly whiny, we would play dodgeball where the counselors would play as well. If a kid was being a pain in the butt, they would end up on the opposite team and then the counselors would proceed to pelt them with dodgeballs to their heart's content. The kids loved it too because they could talk trash and take shots at the counselors as well. As a note, the dodgeballs were the small, no-sting foam ones, so we weren't actually hurting the kids. We're not monsters. Most parents were thrilled that the counselors were actually playing with the kids, and I can't count how many times a parent would come in to pick up their kid after work and join in on a game whilst in a suit and tie. Unfortunately, for one summer in particular, a new program was instituted at the community center I worked for where a STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, class was offered for a part of the day, taught by an outside company. And once the class had wrapped up, our summer camp would be responsible for watching the kids for the remainder of the day until their parents came to pick them up. We ended up having about twice as many kids as usual with a minimal increase in staffing. The main issue was we knew none of the kids or parents, and they tended to range from meh to terrible. After a particularly crappy day, it was decided that we would play some dodgeball with all the kids to relieve some stress and kill time until the majority of them could be picked up. We go down to the gym, set up the game, and played for about an hour or so. The kids from STEM program were a bit hesitant at first, but warmed up to it pretty quickly and had a blast. Plenty of frustration was gotten out during the counselors versus all match that we absolutely dominated. Once we had finished, we headed back to the classrooms to get the kids a snack and wind down for the remainder of the day. Shortly after this is when the entitled mother enters the picture. She is the mother of one of the kids in the STEM program, and yes, she had the "can I speak to your manager" haircut. Everything was going fine as the kid is gathering his stuff into his backpack to head home for the night. His mother asks him how his day went, and he tells her how awesome the class went, and then about how much fun he had playing dodgeball with the counselors that afternoon. It is at this point entitled mother is triggered. "Dodgeball? What do you mean you played dodgeball?" The kid starts to shrink a bit and tries to tell his mom how much he enjoyed it, but she is having none of it. She makes a beeline for me as I am the nearest counselor. "How dare you play dodgeball? I'm a teacher at local school, and it is banned in the local school system." "Ma'am, we aren't affiliated with the local school system, and therefore we don't really adhere to what is and isn't banned." "And what is this I hear about the counselors playing with the kids? That's dangerous." "Ma'am, the parents love that we actually participate in the activities with the kids instead of just sitting around." "This is unacceptable. You shouldn't be playing such a dangerous game. I'm spending all this money to send my child to this program. They should be doing STEM-related things. Where is your boss? I want to speak to him." At this point, I call my boss and explain the situation to her. She comes down from her office and tries to explain the same thing, that dodgeball is one of our kids' favorite games and that having the counselors actively involved is actually a good thing. My boss also tries to explain that kids enjoy running around and playing after sitting in class all day. Entitled mother is having none of it and proceeds to continue to make a scene for another 15 to 20 minutes, saying that we should ban dodgeball. After getting nowhere with my boss, she heads down to the office of the head of the community center and starts complaining to her about it for another 20 minutes or so. All the while, her kid is sitting there moping. It seemed like this was not the first time something like this had happened to him. Eventually, entitled mother returns to the classroom and gets her kid, and they head home. I was hoping that her rant would be the end of it, but unfortunately, it was not. The next morning, my boss informed us that STEM kids are no longer allowed to participate in the games we set up. Entitled mother had complained, and bosses had given in to her complaints. It was decided the STEM kids would have the option to go to the playground or have quiet time. The kids that were in the normal program could still play dodgeball or whatever other games activities we had planned for the day. The time rolls around when the STEM kids' class is over and they head to our program. All the kids are excited and asking me if we can play dodgeball again, and I tell them that unfortunately they won't be able to play that, and instead they can either play on the playground or have quiet time in the classroom. They were all pretty bummed out, and I felt bad because dodgeball was typically the favorite thing for most of the kids in that program. Luckily, the STEM classes only lasted for a few weeks per session, and I was happy I didn't have to deal with entitled mother much more than a quick hi and bye, which she didn't acknowledge as she sent her kid out at pickup for the remaining week and a half or so. Thankfully, she was the worst parent we had to deal with, and the rest of the summer went smoothly. Why do I get the impression that this is the kind of mom that if she could, she would bubble wrap her kid before class? Just saying. Entitled kid caught shoplifting. Entitled mother tries to sue the store. This is not particularly an exciting one, but crazy nonetheless. My friend has told this story numerous times, so I know it pretty well. Back when I was in high school, a friend of mine, who I will call Jay, worked at a drugstore at a local mall. One day, she and her coworker were checking stocking shelves when they saw a boy trying to steal bags of Halloween candy and put it in his backpack. The coworker confronted him and asked him to put the candy back and leave the store. The kid called him a frickin' butthole and kicked him in the legs, then ran past him towards the exit. The manager, having overheard the conversation, ran after the kid and managed to catch him at the door. Jay called the mall security and the boy was picked up by the security guard, who took the backpack and confirmed there were plastic bags of candy in it. The manager calls the district manager and they decide against legal action because he's just a kid, but get the boy's information so they can write a letter to the parents banning the kid from the store. Security guard comes to take him away to hold on to him until his parents come and get him. Letter is sent and a couple of weeks go by with no response from the kid. One day, the district manager calls and says that the store is being sued by entitled mother because the employees hurt her child when he was trying to leave the store and erroneously accused him of stealing property. All of this was weird because the mall security had informed the manager that entitled kid's dad had come to pick him up and told the security guard that this wasn't the first time he had to come pick up the kid for similar offenses and apologized profusely for his son's behavior. The district manager asks the manager for security footage and statements from the manager, Jay, and her coworker. A couple of months later, the district manager shows up at the store in person to tell the story about the crap show that was the court appearance. The entitled mother talked all over her lawyer, stating that her son was already traumatized by his parents' divorce and that this incident had traumatized him further and that her boy was an angel and would never steal. The judge had seen the security footage and read the report from the security guard and asked to speak to the boy's father. Everyone had to end up coming back so that they could call the boy's father in to testify. When they returned for the court appearance, the father confirmed that his kid had shoplifted several other times and because of his age had gotten off. The entitled mother began screaming that her ex was a liar and that he was just saying all of that to get her in trouble. The judge ruled in the store's favor and the entitled mother loudly threatened to appeal. Jay and her coworkers never heard anything more about the situation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, and until next time, I'll see you later.